Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Catch-Up, number 35. More in a minute. Well, that's quite a lie. Not a minute, more about 15 seconds, I think there is. So, joining us, as usual, for the weekly catch-up is the co-host, is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Good morning, Mr. Holbrook.
Greetings. How are you today, sir? I got to see you in the middle of the weekend this time, like you say, so it hasn't been a complete week since we've spoken.
No, that's right, because we had a little test on Saturday evening, yes, my time. So just checking out all the shots, because I spent, as I said, after the last show, well, we did the tech down over on Saturday, and then after that, it was you who made me have to do it, you see, because I promised I was going to talk to you on Saturday night. So I thought, if I don't do it, you're going to be waiting there for nothing. So I thought, well, I've got to do, really got to do something this week. So what I did was, as soon as that show was finished, well, I didn't do it straight away. I still hesitated a little bit, but I went out in the afternoon and went down to the Office Depot type store, but I actually got it from the hardware store. Well, they had it the other week, but I got my network cable the other week, and then this week I got a power board, and it was a 12-socket one.
Whoa.
Do you believe it? And it had big ones, so you had, the big chunky ones with the power adapters for the things like the hard drives and that, so you could actually use all the 12 slots.
All right.
Because usually these power boards, you have 12, you could use about 6, because half of them are those big fat chunky ones, and you can't use it. So I bought that, and that was about $43 for, it was a Surge Protector one, and so I got that. And I thought, well, now I've done it. I've got to do it now. So I've got to move everything. So when I came back in the afternoon, I thought, right. So I pulled all the gear out. And when I move things, I just can't. I don't say, I'll try and do it so I don't lose. I rip everything out of the wall first, throw all the cables into a big pile.
Wow.
Because it's just so hard. People think it's much easier. I'll keep track of this, leave this plugged in, then all I'll have to do is plug that in. It's much neater when you put it back. I just pull all the cables out and throw them on the floor, and then put the gear in place, and then go and look for all the cables. Because I sat down on Friday night and I thought, now how many cables do I need? I thought, okay, I've got the camera. I thought I've got the computer. I've got the hard drive. I've got the PreSonus, the Aphex. I've got what else? I forgot the monitor, and I kept going. I've got the hard drive, and I thought, sugar, I've got at least 8, and so on the 12, I've still got some spare, luckily, over there. But oh no, sorry, I'd forgotten about the lights. So there's 3 lights, so I had to plug all them in. So I thought, I just hope I don't blow up, because I've got so much drain on that particular power. But bringing it down and getting it all set up, it actually worked quite well, because where I was before might look similar, but I had it on a desk that was there was a window behind the desk, but straight to there, and trying to get my LED light in the stand behind the desk is no mean feat. So, and that's what was a bit worrying me. I thought, do I have to move that? What if it doesn't work? And I thought, I've got to, then if it doesn't work, I've got to move it all back so it's back in place for this Wednesday. But fortunately, I got it all down and all set up. And I still haven't moved everything, because I left the speakers upstairs, because I wanted to see that it all worked first, because what I'm planning to do down here is, I've got a desk here, but I'm planning to get something just a little bit bigger,
Oh.
on the desk, so I've got something a little bit wider. But I thought I better just see that it's all working. And I got down here just in the nick of time, I think, because today, well, it's got to 100 today, so 100 degrees. Now, what's it? 9 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
It's still 93, and so it's not expected to drop much below that for tonight. So.
Okay. We've actually been getting some warmer weather here. Our temperature is right now. The temperature in the house is about 3 degrees above what we normally keep the furnace at, and has been for close to 24 hours. It's not dropping down far enough for the furnace to come on. So for February to be, in the 60s and close to 70 is a little much. It's surprising.
Well, here that's one good reason why I'm down here now. It's a small room, but I've got more room for the computer gear and the cameras. It's more room for that, but it's a smaller room.
Okay.
So thank goodness, because the air conditioner works much better.
Excellent.
In here and makes less noise because it cools down and switches off, whereas upstairs it's a 6 square room, but it takes a while to cool down. So I was up there before, and I thought, thank goodness I'm not up here tonight, because even after with the air conditioning being on for about 3 hours, it was still about 24 Celsius. What's that? About 80 or something, isn't it? Something like that. I forget.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was very warm. So it made a big difference to coming down here, and so I'll do it down here. So hopefully this works out. So
all right,
I'm just getting hot. I'm getting hot and sweaty thinking about that. I'll tell you.
Yeah, we do get excited about our tech. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Oh well, I just thought of a good title for this episode.
Oh yes.
Geoff busts a move.
But that's right. you want to come up with some good ones for that, don't you?
Write it down. Okay.
Well,
I did watch the Tech Down Over with Curtis Judd, and anyway, I did have one question.
Yes.
Whenever I first got into photography and all the film stuff and everything like that, and it come time for me to get a real camera, I'm going to get a modern film camera at this point. My basic choices were Canon and Nikon. You guys, I don't think, said Nikon once in that entire episode, talking about all these different cameras and all the most modern, up-to-date cameras, and you never mentioned Nikon even once. What has happened to Nikon? I've been out of the market for a long time, so I just wondered what happened to Nikon.
Well, the thing is with Nikon, so I'll refuse to say Nikon. We say Nikon here. So.
Fair enough. No, you go right ahead.
Or Nikon or whatever you say. But the thing is with them, it's not that they do an excellent camera, but they've sort of been left behind, because even Canon have done a mirrorless camera, whereas they haven't. They're sort of left behind. The market, so all their new ones are still, not the mirrorless, just the DSLRs, the normal reflex cameras. So, whereas all the others, like even Canon was a little bit behind. Like the M5 is their latest edition for the Micro Four Thirds, and that's where it seems to be going. And like people who say it's not going to Micro Four Thirds are great, but still the true professionals still love the normal cameras, which will still never die, and which the Nikon are really very good at that. And same with the Panasonic, with the Canon. But it's like everywhere the market's in the people like me and you, not the super duper professionals. But even Curtis and a lot of the other ones, they're using like that Panasonic GH4. A lot of them are using that professionally for video recording as well. So. That's why there's so much hype about the Panasonic GH5, because the GH4 has been doing such a good job out there for so long. And like Rick said, well, oh, yeah, why don't you get a GH4? He said, oh, no, wait, the new one will be coming out shortly. And that was nearly 3 years ago. So I've been waiting for that. But that's, I think, why is it just seems to be... I don't know what they're doing. They're obviously still making money because they're still there, but their sort of market share is probably shrinking a little bit, because they said you say it's all about Sony, Panasonic, and probably Canon, but even Canon to a lesser extent. It's also the Fujifilm because they've got the mirrorless camera in there, but it's that's what it all seems to be about.
Well, now have the Nikon cameras, have the SLR cameras, have they adjusted their prices down accordingly, or have the mirrorless cameras just really way higher than they are?
Well, no, because you can still get the DSLR in the Nikon, the D750. It's still $2,000.
Okay, so there's really not much of a difference.
That's a full frame camera though, so
Okay.
I must add that is the full frame camera. But they're not any cheaper or dearer. It's just the different. But things like the Sony, A7R Mark II, the A7R Mark II. That's here. It's about $4,200, $4,200.
Oh wow!
But there it's probably about $3,600, $3,500 or something. It's still an expensive camera.
Oh.
But that's a full frame camera.
Okay.
But it's got 42 megapixel sensor. So that's 42. Why you're paying. Yeah. And where the Canon does have the normal one, where they've got a 50, the 5 DSR, the Canon 5 DSR, that's a 50 megapixel, but that's around about the $3,500.
Yeah.
So as I said, they're quite comparable, but it's a testament to how good some of the cameras are, because the Sony, they're quite high priced, but in all the Sony range, one of the big problems with all those Sony ones, they overheat.
Oh.
And so you've got a 30-minute recording time on most of them, but they said that's not a problem because it'll overheat before it gets to that.
So it just shuts off by itself.
Well, that's and I was watching an interview, somebody doing one on the Sony A6300, which is one of those similar sort of things, and he says, yes, we're nearly finished the interview, so we've only got a few minutes left and we better go because the Sony might overheat. So he said, so I don't like to push it. But I really had to laugh because he was panicking. He said, I don't like to go over 15 minutes because it might overheat. But as I said, with those sort of things, people still buy them hand over fist. So there must be a damn good camera. That's what's getting me. I'm just tossing up. I don't know what to get because I do love the features on some of the Sony, but then what Sony do, they've got that one for the A7R Mark II and the A7S Mark II, which it looks the same, but one's more done to video, and it's got a 12 megapixels for the camera, which is nothing at all. But then the video, it shoots in near darkness without grainy quality and that. But that's dearer than the 42 megapixel camera.
Oh wow. Because they expect people to buy it as a video camera instead of as a regular still shot camera. Then
it's a high ISO, but it's a full frame camera. But that's the great thing about it. But it's horses for courses. But it's still the professionals won't touch that one because they want ones with a twin slot, so they've got that backup. That capacity, so they can do 2 cards. If one dies, they've got something on that. It's got the overheating, so they don't want that. That's where sort of the person in between, that Panasonic's quite a good one because it's not the high end, it's not the low end, but it's got nearly all the features that the in-betweener would probably want. And as I said, but even some of the professionals would probably want.
Well, now are some of the higher end consumer grade cameras, are they having the 2 slots and the things like, so for instance, the ADD and the Canon ADD and the like you say, whatever the high end consumer model of the Nikon or Nikon, are they giving you 2 slots or any of this fancy stuff like that? And what kind of megapixels are we talking here?
But the Canon, the Nikon, the D750, I think that has all their full frame usually have the twin slots. But the Canon ADD doesn't. It has a single memory card slot. But it's but even then, like we've got the megapixels, like the Canon one with the 50 megapixel. Yeah, it does a great image, but what do you want it for? If you're doing these fashion shots that's going to be blown up on a 50-foot by 50-foot billboard, you want all the quality you can get out of that. But let's face it, most people's pictures won't leave the internet or the phone to go on the phone. And when I don't know if you've seen this on a lot of people's things, but I do. They get the phone, they take the pictures and say, "Look at my pictures," and they're fantastic. They're really gorgeous type pictures. And then they put them on a normal computer and, oh, gee, that looks rubbish. Because these Samsung phones have the OLED screens and they look magnificent. The color's perfect, but it's not the picture that's doing it. It's the screen that they're viewing it on. So a lot of these phones, I think, fool people. Have got all these lovely pictures to put them up on Instagram. So, oh, it looked a lot better when I took the picture.
And then that also has somebody else comes on and says, "What an amazing picture. That is so great. I can't believe the depth of the color and everything like that." And then there's somebody else looking at the same image on their home old-timey monitor, and they'll go, because that kind of makes the person who was talking how great it was. It seems like, boy, they don't expect much, do they?
But that's the thing with technology these days. But the thing is, where ages ago you'd have to have properly tuned monitors to get the best color out of it. A lot of these monitors these days are just such a damn good quality, don't they? You don't have to have a finely tuned one. And let's face it, the majority of people using it probably wouldn't notice the difference. It's only the what I call the true professionals, and I'm definitely not one of those, but that take photos for a living. They'll get the advantage out of a properly tuned monitor and they'll see the difference. But to me, like these colorists, they would. But I just think they just do such a good job, because to me, sometimes, yeah, it looks okay, that'll do. But some of these people, it's a bit of an art, isn't it, really, the colorist side of it?
Yeah, I think it is. It's just like a friend of mine the other day on the one of the podcasts I was kind of helping him with their audio on. He finally figured out in his software how to stop his file from being stereo and being twice the file twice the size it needed to be. And then, and then he got it down to a certain particular point. And then he said, how big was the file? Because it was like an hour and a half long thing. And he said, how big was the file? And I said, and he said 46 megabytes. And I'm like, whoa. Because they were going 100 and some megabytes. I'm thinking, goodness, how far down did you take it? I expected just to sound like, and honestly, what happened was they brought it down to the bits, per second. Instead of, like, I had been putting my show out at 128, which is actually bigger than what it needs to be. His was at 48. I believe he put his out at, and which is what is, no, it's not. It was 60 something, 64, half what mine was. It was 64. So I went and listened to it in the car. Then I took my little studio headphones and I listened to them in that. And I went back and I said, the audio snob that I am, I said, this sounds good. I said, I was listening and I knew it wasn't going to be any good because you brought the bit rate to half what I was doing. And so I was inspired and I brought mine out at like 96, this time, and cut 10 megabytes off the size of my file. So it was really funny that, I had to admit it was really fine at that. And anybody, if it can get past me and I'm okay with it, no one that listens to this particular show, it's not about audio. Whoever listens to this show is not going to notice if I'm really hard pressed to find, spoken word isn't that dynamic in its nature compared to music. So, it was great. And so we settled on that, and that's what he did. And it worked out fine. But the average anybody listening to the show is not going to notice what somebody else would, a professional would consider a degradation in the sound, or in your case, you were talking about the, resolution or the color balance or anything like that. It's just the average person isn't going to notice, and they're going to be totally fine and happy that this file is a third the size it used to be.
But it's just the actual quality of the signal going in.
Yes.
Because you said we won't notice.
Right.
But if there's a lot of crap and rubbish noise, no matter if it's the higher quality, it'd probably accentuate that. Because that was the problem that they had with CDs, didn't they, as opposed to records? Records recorded such an inferior quality that you could get away with the breathing a bit because it got covered up and a bit of the tapping of the music stands. Whereas when you got that high fidelity with CDs, you heard the artist breathing. You could hear them if they're turning a bit of sheet music, but that's where they had why people like records a bit better these days. It's a bit like TVs. You've got these OLED TVs that are so damn perfect, but things start to look like television shows now. Like they start to look to be fake when when the quality's not that good. Somebody holding up a lightsaber, say in Star Wars, it looks like a futuristic thing. But in some of these TVs, it just looks like what it is, a kid's toy, a little bit of plastic that they've got in their hand. Because it just looks so, you can just see all the detail in it.
Well, in the original Star Wars movie, I got the sense at one point whenever Obi-Wan Kenobi was having the fight with Darth Vader, there at the space station, that there was one point where they took a shot of Obi-Wan Kenobi with his saber sticking right directly into the camera.
Yes, that's right.
And so, he went like that, and I thought his saber was running out of gas. I mean, it created a situation for me to where I thought that he was about to die because you couldn't see the actual light or anything. And then later they showed him from the side, and the light was on again. But all he had was some kind of a wire, and was going zzz, 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 and I thought, so you couldn't see the actual light part. And I thought that as far as the story goes, I thought that his lightsaber was going out. And so now he was in trouble because Darth Vader was going to take him out. But then it showed he had his lightsaber again. But at that moment, I was like, oh no, because even the movements he made, it was more like, right at that moment. And so I thought, okay, this is over. He's about to die. And of course he was anyway, but still it looked like he was failing. But that wasn't the reason he died. That wasn't the reason he died. But it looked like to me at that moment that he was losing it.
It's funny you should mention that. That's one of the classic faux pas in that film where they were saying that, because where you saw that, because in those ones, the early ones, they were just like fluorescent type thing, like these Siloam sticks. That's what that is. Then when it comes straight on, you can't see that. But you see on Obi-Wan's, because it's like a fluorescent tube, it's got power and it's lit up. You can see the cord going from the lightsaber up his sleeve.
I never looked for that, but that was funny.
You can see that, so you can see the thing going up. And I was looking today. There was just something that caught my eye. It says 10 useless additions to Star Wars that nobody needed to have.
Is that the one where they took the thing out of the forehead of when they took off Darth Vader's helmet, and it was that older fella and he had a wrinkly forehead, and they took that out?
Oh well, they took that out, but also as well he had in the original one when they showed him when the Darth Vader, they unmasked him, but he had eyebrows.
Oh, okay.
And then they went back and took them off because they said, oh well, we remember when he all got burnt. All this was said his eyebrows should have been burnt off and he probably shouldn't have any. And so,
like we totally cared about that,
But that's what it said. This was 10 useless things. Why did they bother? And there was showing one said, Darth Vader says, "Get me my shuttle," and he gets in the shuttle. And in the film, then it goes and then it shows you him on the battle cruiser threatening some general or something.
Yeah.
And I thought, people might think, well, how did he get here? And they said, do you think we're really that silly? We knew he got his shuttle to there, but no, they had to put what they put in there after he said, get me my shuttle. They put him walking down the thing into his shuttle, it flying up, flashing back to the other thing, and then flashing back, seeing them go into the battle cruiser, then showed that scene.
Oh, because we didn't really know. We thought maybe there was a second dark vapor.
Yeah, we probably thought he said, take me to my shuttle. He's gone into the battle cruiser or something. But I thought it is quite fun. But I wish if I could get a copy of the original Star Wars on DVD, I think I would, because look at all the things that they've put into it. Really makes it a bit silly now. And they were showing you in the first one, the redid, in the bar scene where they took some of the creatures out and put different ones in.
Now I remember there was a whole lot of things added, a lot of small things running around. I know we had the original first three movies on VHS, and we probably still have them. But then we bought it all again later on DVD, and you ended up with, they added a whole bunch of stuff. The stupidest one I thought that they added into the new one was whenever there's a confrontation between Jabba and Han Solo in the hangar, and he steps on Jabba's tail. That was just stupid.
Yeah. And he went over, but the thing was, I don't think that at the time they knew Jabba was that big sluggy thing. So,
what I'm saying, whenever they come back out with the additions, whenever thinking about making the 3 new movies, and then they come out with a new edition of it to kind of get people all psyched up about it, and then the scale of Jabba was off as well. Yeah. I mean, so they did all this CGI type stuff when they put it back out and added, some CGI things to it. And it looks incredibly artificial, but there's Jabba the Hutt at the hangar at Mos Eisley Spaceport where they're getting ready to take off, before they come running in there, and it happens right before that. And he kind of steps on Jabba's tail, and Jabba's, and Jabba was the wrong size in relation to Han. It was kind of funny.
He got added to that, though. That's why, because that scene was never there. That was shot with something else, because there's a set at that time. And they did another one that they added was where Jabba was in there talking away, and C-3PO's translating it, and said then they decided to put subtitles. They said, well, what's the whole? He's just said word for word what he said. And so why do we have to put subtitles in? Because the whole point is that's why he's there, because you can't understand what he's saying. So he listened to C-3PO. So they said it's just silly. And then they said some of the things, you saw this other creature go in the background for no apparent reason, didn't add any value to the scene. But anyway,
if anything, it's a distraction. It makes you look off somewhere else. Do you think it was because they were trying to get a new generation to like the movies so that they would be excited for the new movies coming out, and then they just thought maybe that they needed this extra information? Not the old people that already seen them, but maybe they thought for the kids they were going to get them excited if they added some real whimsical stuff, maybe.
I think what it is, it's probably like that, but it's more so to make it look a bit like it was made today, whereas rather than in 77. So they had to put, I think, some of those things that they've made in the later films, because the later films are the earlier films. But so the later one looks older than the new one. So.
But the contrast between the bad CGI that was happening at that point and the 77 and earlier films was, in that area was just awful. The contrast between the two different things was just awful. They should have left them the movies they were, and then come on with it. It was interesting to watch the new things they'd added, but they really cluttered up a lot of the scenes that were busy anyway. And then they threw in a bunch of little extra aliens running around, about knee-high things running around, a bunch of those extra little minivan-looking robots that were running around inside the Death Star, and different things like that. Just a whole lot of extra things that just cluttered the place up and were distracting and didn't really help.
And plus also, the more it might be visually, nice and exciting, but in the original one, it made it look like a sleazy spaceport, didn't it?
That was the point, I thought. That's what he said. It's watch your step.
Whereas you've got all these other things, and it started to make it not more clinical, not so believable. Whereas I know it's all, but when they put all these other creatures in, it was getting to be far-fetched then. Whereas before, it was just, it was just a few normal people with their, funny suits on, and then you saw a few different alien type things in the bar. But apart from that, it was just like a normal desert village sort of thing, wasn't it? So, but then after, anyway, but they still made the millions. So who are we to to say anything. So
Now they sold them all over again so that the kids of the people who bought them the first time could actually see them, and then they had to buy them again for the kids. So it worked.
But like you said, what they do, and this is why they make a lot of money. You've got them on VHS, and then more than likely, most people have them again on DVD. And now they'll get them on Blu-ray, and now they've got the 4K versions coming out, haven't they? They've got like the Super HD, which is the 4K versions, and I thought, but then they just and then it ends up being an hour and a half film, and then by the time you get to the other one, it's a 6-hour film. You think, they extend that, but they seem to find enough to put on the DVDs anyway, don't they? So.
Oh yeah, a lot of extra stuff, and then and they might even take the original stuff that they did in the first movie and make a special feature on the 4K version showing just how awful it was when they did the movie first. Some kind of special, and make money off of that yet again. Just so, this is why we knew and improved this, because the first one was just bland and awful, and and this is what it looked like to start with. So if you want to watch it in the original way, we'll make that a special feature, and then they'll make more money off the old original way again anyway. Stuff like that.
But it was just like the original one. I remember in the day when they were showing it in the 70s when they was making that, and the sound studio and the studio they had to build, which was the whole that model of the Death Star, and all the cameras that had to go down the trench. The cameras were actually going down the trench and filming it, and the models were going down. It wasn't somebody doing animations or anything. They were actually filming real things on there and blowing things up and all that. They had to do all that by themselves. So. And when you used to see some of the spaceships, after you get a bit more picky a few years later, you saw when the spaceships move, you could sort of see the image move. You could see the background moving. They were just moving along the thing. When you see all the Darth Vader's little raiders in that 3 formation, and then they got rid of that in the later ones. But we're so ignorant when we in the early days we just take anything. Whereas later we get so much pickier when they come up with all these different fantastic effects. But nowadays, the best effects are ones where people don't realize it's an effect.
Right. Yeah. One of the things I found annoying too is whenever they blew up the Death Star, and anytime anything would blow up, they would do a ring shockwave coming out from it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, if something round blew up, okay, wouldn't the shockwave be expanding round?
Yeah.
Instead of a complete single circle, however, could have been a mile wide, I don't know, but I mean, coming out from it, and you have the explosion, you see it going out past the circle in this direction, then the shockwave only goes this way. It's just kind of like, okay.
And also, as well as just talking to somebody the other day and said, space is always left to right, top to bottom. What stops them? One of the ships being there, one being like that, and one, upside down. That wouldn't make any damn difference, would it? In the middle of space, but they're all still next to each other, don't they? They all go.
Yeah. Well, I guess if they go through, I always wondered how in the world they could go through a Stargate or a, hyperspace together and come out spaced exactly the same. I guess the ships have got some technology to keep them from running into one another in hyperspace, but still, it's kind of a funny thing that you don't have this big pile up at the other end.
Well, that's what they're always saying, isn't it? They say, quick, let's get us into hyperspace. No, if we get the calculations wrong, we'll come out into the center of the planet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, we'll skip through a star, and that'll end your trip real quick, wouldn't it? Yeah. But you'll see them, though, and sometimes they don't all take off together.
No, that's right.
They go, see them doing that, and all of a sudden, though, they come out all together,
Yeah, that's but like that. But you're not supposed to think about that.
Oh, sorry.
Like if we can't do it, pile of cars doing 30 mile an hour. We can't all use stop. Just imagine these spaceships going at what faster than light speed, all coming to a stop at once.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
I always used to laugh at the Mad magazines because in the early days where it was doing the Star Trek and said this warp number 5, and then goes and then they're all squashed against the back wall. Oops, sugar, we forgot the inertia dampeners. And, you know, so they all got squashed against the back wall. And, oops, we forgot to switch them on, didn't we? So,
oops.
We still that.
And then there was that one where they had a transporter malfunction and Spock came out with a hand sticking out of his ear, arm sticking out of his ear. Yeah, it was...
I always remember that. It's something very peculiar happened here, Captain. And I think his head is in his backside as well, wasn't it?
Oh, I don't remember that part. We didn't get the magazine itself, but we just happened to see, one at school or something. And it was, we like Star Trek so well that's really the only thing other than that and a different picture of Alfred E. Newman on the front of it every time is the only thing I ever remember about the magazine, because we didn't actually get it whenever I was a kid.
And I always, the thing is, I just remember when somebody was saying about it the other week, it used to have a 45 RPM record on the back.
Oh.
That used to peel off, and then you'd have to put, money on the top of it to keep it onto the record player, because it was so thin, but you just played it. It was a bit of plastic done as a 45, and they used to do a music, some tune or something on it each time, and that was another thrilling thing. But you think back now and you say, gee, we was easily pleased, weren't we? So.
Oh, yeah. Well, I remember them having records on the back of cereal boxes, too, that you had to cut out. Oh, and you just, the first thing I thought of was if they if they take the cereal boxes and slide them in together, that's going to be a really very scratchy surface going across that record on the back of it. But you just had to take a pair of scissors and actually cut the thing out. And then put it on your record player, and you were usually a little uneven the way you cut it out, and there you go, and you put it on there, and it says stuff, and it's scratchy sounding, and it's on cardboard, for heaven's sake. So,
and then I remember with the records, and then they started bringing red records out. I remember, and I bought a green record, and I thought it was really thrilled because it was always black, weren't they? But then they started bringing some, but the green ones and the red ones just never seem to sound as good as the black ones. I was convinced of that.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't know. We had, I remember getting mad one time because a guy I knew took one of my records and took the record player outside and was playing, and then took my record and put it up over one of the speakers in the sun.
Oh,
it was my favorite record, and it just kind of went like that.
There's still a person I haven't seen for years, and I'll remember till my dying day when I see her. I said, "Where's my Bobby Dazzler record?" And Quattro on it with the 48 crash, compilation. What it was called, Bobby Dazzler. And I remember that. And she said, "Oh, can I borrow that?" Yeah, never saw it again. I returned that. I thought, you never did, so I'll remember. I won't forget that, because it was back in about 1973, I think it was.
And all of a sudden, you'll see this big news story where a Bobby Dazzler record sold for 1.8 million or something. It has her name on it.
I said, that's mine. Well, I was crazy. I was crazy enough. Was it about 1977? It was. The old Reader's Digest that have all these things and buy so many books or all this. Well, Reader's Digest I saw this flyer it was probably 82 by then. I think it was the hits of the 70s.
Oh, okay.
And it was for $30, and it had 15 records.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I've got to have that. I've still got that. So
do you?
Yeah, it was one only thing I've ever bought from Reader's Digest that I thought was really good. So I was really excited to get that.
Speaking of Reader's Digest, one of the things that really bothered me was, have you ever seen those? Did you guys have those condensed books?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
well, you only get part of the book. And I'm thinking, why would you ever want to buy half a book? I mean, there's 6 of them in here. Well, there's 6 halves of books in there. And I didn't know that, and I got a hold of one time, and I think at a rummage sale, and I thought, oh, okay, look at that. I've got 6 books in here. And it turned out there wasn't the whole book. I found the same problem. I felt betrayed the first time I listened to an audiobook because it was a
Yeah.
book that I had actually read a few years ago. And all of a sudden, wait a minute. What about this happening? And what about that? And it turned out that you only get part of the book. I
Oh,
found that very annoying.
and I had somebody I knew. There was these records on special about 89 cents, and they were called they were the Beatles records.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, oh, and he bought all these Beatles records.
Oh.
But he didn't notice it was on the set about all the Beatles songs and all that. But there was a little thing in the small writing said it was called Beatle Backers. And what it was all the Beatles songs with dogs barking to the tune of
Very disappointing. Rawr, 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 rawr. Yeah, I know what you...
I thought, wouldn't you be disappointed? But he brought them for his kids. And, oh, look, I've got his. So, yeah.
Oh, they would love that. Yeah.
But I thought you feel sorry for that because you know when people do the right thing for the right reasons and it goes wrong, you thought, how can you think, oh, look, oh, really? Thanks. I thought, gee, that was a cool one. Beetle backers.
Beetle barkers. Yeah, no. And anytime they had, they add like chickens or things doing people songs, I find all that kind of stuff kind of crazy. It's actually funny though. If you actually start listening to it, you can't help but laugh sometimes. I mean, what is that? There's one Christmas song that involves animals doing it. I can't remember which one it is. There's a Christmas song that involves something about animals doing, and then of course the name of the animal is tied into the actual name of the song. It's the same thing, but it's an animal, and it's something that you hear every Christmas, but I can't remember which one it is.
It's a bit like every Christmas and what you see nowadays. It used to be, was it Miracle on 42nd Street? Was it, or
43rd, I believe. 43rd, I think.
Close. 42nd's a bus station, isn't it?
I don't know. I haven't been there.
But now we've become more modernized, and we don't get that. Now we have Chevy Chase's Christmas Vacation, don't we?
That is one thing I have noticed, that my daughter and her fiance, that would be one of their favorite Christmas movies, and I would say our favorite one is probably White Christmas.
Oh, there with Bing Crosby.
Yes, and so it's a good movie. They like it too, but they do like their more modern, shall we say, movies. Yeah.
Is it called White Christmas or Holiday Inn?
No, Holiday Inn is a separate movie.
Is it?
Yes, I think there's some Christmassy stuff going on, but yeah, White Christmas is its own movie. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've seen it. It's one of those films that no matter how. It's just a nice, great film, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's so uncomplicated.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, and I love the Christmas Vacation, but it's just so stressful just to watch it. You've been through that and all the tensions, with all the different family members, where you think, please don't open your mouth, don't do this. Something's going to happen.
To me, that I don't have any memories of that type at all, because we had family reunions every Christmas time, and we also it's my dad's family, and we also had a middle of the summer type of reunion on the 4th of July, which was my grandparents' anniversary. That's when they got married, and so they would have 2 family reunions a year. And yes, there were eccentricities, but there was nothing to that level of anything like that. And then you have, A Christmas Story, Shoot Your Eye Out. Everybody's seen that one where the little kid wants the Red Ryder BB gun and everybody keeps telling him he'll shoot his eye out. And I have people tell me that that's exactly the way their childhood was. I don't remember anything of the sort. I mean, I remember Christmas being a magical time. It wasn't all the anxiety, I guess, the poor kid had. I'm sure I had some, but like all kids do, but I don't remember this constant fear for your life that this little kid has in this movie.
Well, I started my life, in England,
mm-hmm.
and we left when I was about 9.5, but Christmas is there and it's probably like the same where you are. It just feels different because to me Christmas is all winter, cold, snow.
Yes.
And that when here it just can't feel the same because whenever it's just so hot, there's never any snow because it's in the middle of summer.
Right.
Or it's in the beginning of summer,
Mhm.
but it's just a bit. And people who've never lived in snow, well, it's great not to have to work in it. But
Sure.
don't miss it. Don't get me wrong. But when you're inside for Christmas, it makes such a difference because when the snow's on the ground, everything's so quiet, isn't it? It's
Yes,
just,
yes, it's
and-
it's
yeah,
like falling into a big old room full of cotton or something. You can't hear anything.
and then all the nasty, horrible things of the world are hidden underneath a nice blanket of white, and so everything looks really nice for a moment. And
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, it
when
does.
it comes, when the spring comes, it all melts and all the slush comes.
Yeah.
That's when the magic disappears. But-
Well, whenever when I retire, I am looking forward to snow when I retire. If I don't have anywhere to go, I'm great with snow. All I have to do, if the power goes off, we even have a wood stove. We can actually cook, food on it if we need to, and things like that. So, as long as you got some food around the house and you've got, plenty of water, something to drink, even if the power goes off, it doesn't really matter. You just sit there and watch it and enjoy it if you don't have to get out and drive in it, because we have on occasion had some really deep snow, but you still have to go to work. Where I work for such a large institution in the United States, it's not like a private local company with 10 employees that can just call everybody and say, we're closing today. We don't need to be doing advertising today because no one's going to be there to give their advertising campaigns to. Well, this is something that, rain nor sleet nor dead of night and all that. So, yeah. So you are required, even if the governor says a state of emergency and stay off the roads, you are still required to come to work.
Yeah, that's not you. They stay off the road so the people who do the post can get in, and the ambulance and the fire brigade, so they can do all their jobs. That's why they say you stay home. But it's a bit strange. Like it says you're going to retire to snow, whereas most people go to Florida, don't they?
Well, I'll be honest with you. If I was going to move anywhere, I'd probably go north. I like cooler temperatures, and I like the fall, the winter. Okay, my favorite seasons in order are fall, spring, winter, then summer. I don't really like hot weather.
It's the same thing here, where people they move up north, which to Queensland, which is our Florida for most people. But I would probably do the same thing as you. I'd want to move to Tasmania.
There you go.
That's really is a nice place. A little bit colder, but I mean it's still not freezing down there, but it's just that little bit colder. But the thing I like about it is you don't get too many drop-ins because it is surrounded by water, so people can't drive there, you see. So
okay, yeah, well, there you go.
400-kilometer ferry trip or something. So it's,
to me, it can freeze all outside all at once if I don't have anywhere to go. As long as I'm inside, I'm great with that. It doesn't. I don't care how cold it gets out there. I can go out when I want to, or not if I don't. And, that's just the way it is.
I must admit, I do enjoy winter better, more so because I can do video editing, all my camera stuff, and stay in and do that, where I feel as though I'm allowed to do that. Whereas in summer, when it's so nice out, you just feel as though you've got to be out and about taking pictures or doing something. You can't be sat inside editing. Whereas when it's dark outside and it's cold, you don't feel half as bad sitting inside in the heat, just doing something like that. So quite often I get stuck into a lot of the jobs I want to do with me editing. Like I really haven't done anything this summer yet because I just don't want to be sat there. Because when I start doing something there, I can't just sit down. I'll just do this for 5 minutes. I sit down there, and 5 or 6 hours later, you're still there. So like our conversations on Blab, if you keep starting, if you don't set a rule, you're there for hours. And video editing, you can't do it a little bit, because once you start making something, you're finding different shots, and then you're doing this, and you're never happy with that. Then you're playing it back, and after that, it's just hours gone, and to get you a 2-minute clip or something. So.
Yeah, I mean, now with your area there where you're at, are your winters more of a rainy season, or do you actually get snow and get, winter temperatures?
Never snow. We've never
Oh,
had
really?
snow.
Okay.
If you go up the mountains, there is a ski season there, but sometimes some years haven't had much snow at all. But they have to go up to the mountains. But anybody who's interested in skiing would really go over to New Zealand anyway, because it's probably better and cheaper to go there, because their sort of ski resorts are sort of only second to, I think, the Swiss Alps.
Oh, wow.
So New Zealand, and it's such an undiscovered place for that. Because it's too far out of the way for all the Europeans to go to all the time. But
Okay.
if you've got the money, I think New Zealand's a really great place to go. But I was saying there the other week, we complain if like our winters would probably get, overnight lows probably about 4 Celsius, which I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. Is that 45 or something?
Yeah, I knew it was above freezing. I remember you telling me before. Yeah.
Because I know 4 degrees, because every now and then, and this is how funny it is, when it drops to about 3 degrees, it very rarely does that. But I was going to work one day, and I'm going there, beep beep, the car, beep beep beep. Oh, what's that? And there's this thing flashing on the dashboard, and what on earth is it? And then when I got to work, I looked at the instruction book, and it was said, because it got to 3 degrees, it was warning you that could be ice forming on the road. And I've never
You never heard that before.
I had the car 5 years, and I thought, what's that? I thought, it's done that, because it's very, very rare that it does it. But if it drops below a certain one, the ice starts, and you can get the black ice on the road. Never have. But what's that? And then when I realised that flashing thing was like images of a snowflake.
Okay.
And that's what it was. But it never come up before. So, and I'd only seen that once. But as I said, very rarely happens. And as I said, we think we're hard done by in winter when it gets to the top temperature for the day is 10 degrees.
Yeah.
And whatever that is in Fahrenheit. But as I said, like today, what is it still here 90? I think it's still, it still isn't 93 degrees. Oh no, it's dropped to 89 now since we've been. It's dropped to 89, which is, what is it in our temperature is 32 Celsius.
Okay.
But as I said, but our things is quite funny. Whereas we've got a overnight low is probably about 80. I think it's going to be warm tomorrow, but sometimes we can have an overnight low of 80 with a top temperature of 73. So the overnight low is higher than the top temperature.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes, like tonight it would be, and probably tomorrow. So sometimes we can get an overnight low temperature is higher. So it starts, the low temperature drops to the highest one for the day.
That has happened to us when a new front was moving in, because everything goes from California across the United States, and so we can see it coming.
All right.
For a long we get I guess in California it's like, well, out to sea, it's like, oh, what was that? But where we're at, we get to see it, and if there's this huge storm coming, we get 2 days notice. Anytime something really ugly is coming,
It was funny on Sunday we had that. It was quite warm on Saturday, quite warm on Sunday, and then we had a front come through, and somebody at work said it was quite amazing because you could see it. It was all the black cloud, and the way I can describe it, and you'll know exactly what I mean. Did you ever see Independence Day?
Yes. Yeah, on that big old blue. Here it comes.
Just waiting for the spaceship to come through, because the clouds were coming like that, dark and black, and getting closer. And I thought, where's the spaceship going to come through? But it just came like that, and then we had more than a month's rain in the next 2 or 3 hours, I think, because it just poured down, and then we had the next day. It never got to more than 18 degrees. So what's that? Very, very low. So it was sort of really cardigan weather again. But and then the next 2 days, and now it's gone to this one. But it's been up and down this year. At least I don't mind that, as long as it goes up and then goes down a little bit. It's when it stays constantly hot. But we haven't had that for a few years now anyway.
Well, now, if you guys never have freezing temperatures, like you say, only rarely you have a freezing temperature, then probably wood stoves and things like that probably aren't in vogue at all in your area, are they? Or are they even allowed? I know someplace outlaws them.
But they do have the wooden stoves, the Canaras and that. But you acclimatise to what it is, because I think I still get freezing cold in winter. Think, oh, gee, it's cold, because I suppose the houses are built differently.
Mm-hmm.
Yours are built much stronger for the heavy winters and that, whereas these are more built for the hotter weather.
Yeah.
But and then we get used to it. But as you say, we think, oh, gee, it's cold. Tonight's freezing, but you don't really know what freezing is. But yeah, we still think we have very cold winters anyway. But it's what we get acclimatized, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else thinking. Mm-hmm. But this is how it was in the office today, though. Is sometimes the air conditioning can be so good when it's hot outside. I think it was, he said, nearly 100 degrees out there, and I'm sat at my desk with a blanket over my knees because the air conditioner was blowing under, and I was frozen. It's so cold because sometimes it's that hot outside. The air conditioner thinks, well, everybody must be hot. I better, really kick in. And in these big open offices, there's always somebody that's warm. But when it's in areas, like some areas, you can see, you can see the steam coming out your breath. It's that cold sometimes.
Well, we have that on the loading dock. We have like 30 some bays of a loading dock where I work at. And so as those doors are opening and closing, it stays cold out there. But then that has a tendency to affect thermostats that are near that area. And so the interior of the building in the wintertime gets really, really hot. And then in the summertime, it gets pretty cool sometimes. So it's hot outside on the way to work and then cold when you get there, or vice versa. And there's a lot of people that wear shorts all year round at where I work at inside the building, even if it's, and to me, I'll wear shorts until it's down in the 40s, which is, again, freezing is 32. So until it gets down to about freezing, I'll wear shorts pretty much the whole time.
Yeah, well, as I said, in my previous place in there, I was next to a window on a corner where you get all the afternoon sun, and that was always hot. Even in the middle of winter, and it was always a hot area. So where I am at the moment, it is cold, but it's at least I can you can warm up. But when it's hot, you usually can't get much relief from that, whereas you always run up anyway. So, but I don't complain too much. Just get me blanket. I just look like an old man in a wheelchair or something. You know how they wrap the legs up in the blanket? Oh, totally. I thought I had to wrap one up and do that, or else I thought I'm just going to freeze too much. So.
Well, the way we're set up, people look at you and wonder why. I'll stop at a store on the way in, and it's like 35 degrees outside, and I'm wearing a pair of gym shorts or something to work, and somebody looks at me, and I'll say, well, it gets really hot in the warehouse, area that I work in. And I said, but if women can wear skirts all winter, then I should be able to wear a pair of shorts. And they go, well, yeah, I guess so.
Well, you can wear a skirt if you want to, Jeffrey.
Well, like you say, you may have some Scottish ancestry there. I don't. That I'm aware of anyway.
I always say jokingly, because like in most places you have a dress code, but I jokingly say, but it doesn't say. It says, well, you can have a skirt set with not shoulderless things, but it doesn't say that men can't wear it. So I thought, if I had enough guts, you could go in with a short skirt on and all the thing with a blouse on. But
I don't know. There is one guy that showed up. He was going to a contest, and he showed up out on the loading dock in drag one day. Yeah, he was on his way to a contest at a local bar. And he showed up in drag on the dock out there. I know the guy. I've known the guy for a couple of decades. But as far as ever, being around him whenever he was dressing that way, I haven't been. But and I wasn't. It always happens on my day off. I never get to see this stuff. And so anyway, he showed up, looking good for the contest. From what I could tell, that's what they said.
Oh, anyway. Well, it looks like we've done our hour again. I think we've gone even a little bit over as well, but that doesn't matter anyway. So as long as it's not 2 hours over.
Oh, sure.
So thank you thank you again, Mr. Holbrook.
Oh, you are ever so welcome. I enjoy this.
Yes, I do too. So we've got a title for the show as well, so that makes it even.
Yes, it is. Geoff busts a move.
Geoff, yeah. But what I've got to do some readjusting because I'm not quite comfortable. The camera's a bit too close for me.
Okay.
So I'll look like at the moment I'm pushing a bit back because if I sit up, I'll just go out of camera frame. So the camera's a bit too close. So I'm pushed back and leaning back.
Okay.
So because if I sit up, I'll go and get a bit too. So I've got to put the camera just that little bit further back. So.
Okay.
But there's just that slight adjustment, but hopefully it seems to have gone okay with my network cable and that getting rid of the Wi-Fi and just connecting it in there seems to keep going okay anyway. So
excellent. So
all seems to work good. So thank you once again, and thank you everybody for watching. And so you can catch us, as I said, on YouTube. You would see this if you're not watching live. I don't know if anybody had come in on the chat. But,
nope.
We didn't miss it, but we're also on RelateCast on Vimeo as well. I always put the shows on there as well, so we've got another one on Vimeo as well. So thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, thank you, sir.
Next week. Thank you. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at geoffblanchard.com.